In the year 2051, the United States invaded Mexico. During the following occupation, the army would recognize the Republic of Rio Grande as an independent nation in an attempt to lower resistance. While it mainly served as a puppet regime for the American army, its establishment would become a blessing during the nuclear reign. As the military high command sealed themselves away in Armageddon Station, it left a power vacuum right in the chaos. Seizing the initiative, the American soldiers, abandoned by their leaders, did everything in their power to help as many civilians as possible into the bunkers, and even allowing their former enemies in the Mexican army to join them in safety. 30 decades after the war, democracy was restored with a newfound unity between the American soldiers and Mexican people. What followed was the slow reparation of the destroyed republic and the reconquest of much of our pre-war lands, including Armageddon Station. Legends say it's full of pre-war technology, but it remains unopened as its 4 keys are spread out between us and the 2 strange AIs in the south. This brings us close to current day. It was only a few years ago that the Republic would face another existential crisis, facing off against the legions of Caesar. What saved us was the sheer massive work of our president that united much of northern Mexico into an army capable of defeating the centurion Caesar had sent on an expedition to raid and subjugate all our lands. After a resounding victory, a golden age would set in for our republic. With the election of President Dante Guerra, our economy has grown significantly as he has greatly increased industrial subsidies. A lot of focus has been put on repairing infrastructure, turning our capital of Gloria into one of Mexico's most developed cities. He would also restore the Reclamation Bureau, which since its establishment has helped with the reindustrialization of several old pre-war factories. Most of its focus has been on the civilian economy, however Dante has also looked to expand our arms manufacturing, even opening trade with Generalissimo Viala from Gente del Sol. This is partially due to clashes against our cartels in our furthest southwestern territories, but mainly due to Guerra's growing irritation with the Texan Arms Association. Nominally under our republic, these arms companies are established on the opposite bank of the Rio Grande River in Texas. It was during the inception of the republic that we started to cooperate with them, but since then tensions have grown as they have started to infiltrate and corrupt our institutions. In his efforts to stop this infiltration, Guerra has not only diversified our own weapons industry, but also passed legislation purposefully against the TAA. The first was to simply ban their donations to congressmen, but growing bolder, he also outright banned them from selling weapons to Caesar. As he ordered our territorial army to enforce this ban and raid suspected shipments, the tensions with the arms barons reached a boiling point. Especially as the decoupling from the TAA continued, with now only 1/3 of the military industry coming from them. Thanks largely to further industrialization, but also the development of our own original designs. The tensions would all explode on the 5th of October as a warband of barons crossed the Rio Grande into our capital and set Gloria on fire. A few hours later, the TAA declared its independence, leaving us in a deep national crisis and with an army unrecognizable from before. With the following economic crash, the political stability of our republic was upended, with the Senate and Congress divided in 3 factions. Dante Guerra stands with the most support, but his position is shaky as looking to capitalize on the chaos is the previous president and war hero against the Legion, Leonardo Mora, and the Brotherhood of Steel enthusiast, Valentina Rosado. Though with 2 years left until the next election, it is in everyone's interest to bring back stability and growth while taking the credit for themselves. Cooperating with Rosado, President Guerra would found the Rio Contingency Bureau with Carlos Avila in charge. He would almost immediately begin by using the crisis to restructure our economy in favor of our people and workforce, something which will greatly improve our long-term economic growth. But while Guerra and Rosado were working on reforming the economy, Mora had taken steps to enact revenge on the TAA. Because they are still our citizens and many of them will fight for our republic. Speaking on the radio and campaigning across the country, Mora would rally our people against their barons and even gained support in the halls of the Senate. Especially as raids from Paulus, the defeated centurion, would restart, many senators saw Mora as the only man capable of saving the Republic, as he had already done once. With this newfound support, he convinced the Senate to bail out our homegrown arms industry and even redistributing funds meant for Avila's New Deal on some of our smallest weapons producers instead. As Mora also has significant support in the army, he made sure it started training more National Guards and sent over enough weaponry for loyalists in the TAA to raise their own militias. During this, Guerra had attempted to begin hunting down Paulus and even started establishing frontier militias against the raiders, but it was all executed too late as Paulus had raised a big enough force to fully take control of one of our states and launched the second offensive against Gloria. With Guerra stunned by this development, it's become Mora's job to once again defeat his old enemy. Quickly sending over the army, he ordered them to attack immediately, catching Paulus off guard and encircling the brunt force of his army. While his raiders were determined, they aren't that well equipped and supplied, so as the encircled forces were destroyed, we could continue marching westwards, cleaning up any raiders we met until Paulus was defeated for a second time. And this time sent back to Caesar for good. With this victory, Mora's support in the Senate has skyrocketed, leaving Guerra and Rosada behind in the dust. And as the army stands more confident than ever, the time for our revenge against the TAA has arrived. The secessionist barons will be defeated and our lands liberated. Initiating the liberation with a concentrated offensive aimed straight at their capital, it looked promising at first, but as they rallied their forces, our attack fell apart. As the TAA stands with a similar amount of units with higher quality, brute forcing it won't win us the war. We need to set up a trap, just like we had done in the first battle against Paulus. And it might actually be easier against the TAA due to their decentralized command structure. Retreating from Cruce Piace, we let the Texan forces cross the Rio Grande, having prepared a flank attack once they gain enough lands. As we expected, they took the bait, funneling over 10 divisions over the river, and so we closed the trap. Catching them off guard, and despite some attacks from them trying to enlarge their beachhold, Cruce Piace was liberated with 7 units encircled. At the same time as they were all fully destroyed, our elite Spec Ops team were able to cross the Rio Grande for themselves. And so the momentum has turned to our side. We quickly started working on expanding our foothold the opposite side of the river, and unlike what happened to the TAA, we would succeed. Soon enough, we even gained a minor breakthrough, arriving close to their de facto capital. From this point on, a long battle took place as we attempted to encircle 3 units. During it, more Republican guards were trained and deployed, and as they entered the battle, it was won. Not only did this encircle those 3 units, but it also crippled the TAA's defenses, as despite a desperate one, it eventually collapsed, leading to us capturing their largest city and reaching to their eastern border, dividing their forces in 2. With almost no hope left for them, we made our way south, continuing to encircle and divide as many units as possible. Finally, as Eagle Pass was liberated, most barons had already fled, leading to the mass capitulation of their forces. So our Texan lands once again belong to the Republic, and this time its industries fully under our control. On the day of reunification, it also became 100 days until the next presidential election. The winner is more than predetermined, however. While Guerra has been able to bring the first signs of growth with increased trade and foreign investment, the victory Mora has brought to the Republic more than outweighs this. He has united families and brought back a crucial part of the Republic into its control. 100 days later, the inevitable results arrived. The Senate had overwhelmingly elected Mora as president, not only for his long-running success, but also for his promise of restoring Mexico. His first order of business was to implement a new draft so we can create a new Mexican army. First, dismantling all militias and territorial armies, our Republican Guard units were then enlarged and equipped with fire teams, demolitions and chems, increasing their efficiency. Our special forces are also looking to receive their restructuring once the bureaucracy has caught up. With this surge in reforms and massive investments into our military industry, the economic crash caused by the secessionists has healed. This means we stand ready. Going live on the radio, Mora declared the rebirth of Mexico. This nation long gone will reunite and its citizens will be liberated. The Mexican Constitution and all that it stands for has been readopted. Only a few days later, the Senate had passed the Integration Act, granting the president sweeping powers to unite Mexico once again, even making him commander-in-chief. With the act signed and our army standing stronger than ever before, we started the process of unification. Unfortunately, with the loss as the first event, as Caesar's legion invaded Las Granjas, a core part of Mexico. Also meaning we now have border with the massive empire. Still, we use this as a benefit, sending a letter of unification to New Pecos, and with them being extremely worried about the Caesar threat, they rejoined Mexico after 400 years of separation. While starting the work of integrating the colony, our army moved southwest to combat the cartels. Since it's obvious they won't join us willingly, we simply crossed into their territories to defeat them, starting with the Sinaloa cartel. 11 months later and only 2,000 casualties, the North, not under the Legion, has been united. Having already started the work of properly integrating the new lands, through the deployment of militias and enforcers, the main population centers have already been cored. During the conflicts, our army doctrine was refined as we've started equipping every squad with their own radios. We are also working on significantly expanding the size of our forces, with the goal to reach 20,000 deployed men. On the civilian front, our economy has continued to blossom, as with the creation of the Bank of Mexico, we have reintroduced the Mexican peso, finally giving us control of monetary matters as opposed to when we used caps. During this period of peace and integration, a lot of important things occurred outside our borders. In our south, Tlalocan, the supercomputer, ran out of storage space or something similar and collapsed into 3 new insane AIs. Which means there are now 4 different areas controlled by machines who impersonate former great leaders of Mexico. Simultaneously, reports started flooding in from the north that the Second Battle of Hoover Dam had started, a full-blown war between Caesar's Legion and the new Californian Republic. Both of these are great news for us. The collapse of Tlalocan means we can move south, while the war in the north could give us an opportunity to liberate the rest of northern Mexico. Since we are far from prepared for the latter, we put our focus on the biggest robotic threat, Santa Anna. As there can be no negotiations with robots, Mora simply ordered the army to attack them. Starting in Texas, our elite forces pierced through the robotic defenses of Zapata Bay, gaining a significant enough breakthrough that we could reach the regional capital of Marsh's Edge and capture one of the 2 crossings from Mexico to Texas. The goal is to capture the second one to divide Santa Anna's 2 realms. After another successful offensive more to the north of Texas, we received massive news from the lands of Caesar's Legion. Caesar has died and Lanius, the eastern warlord, has succeeded him, so unfortunately the empire didn't collapse, though this gives us more preparation time. So back to Santa Anna, we've gained the support of the Texan Republic, distracting the robots from the north. This allowed us to perform encirclement after encirclement after encirclement, as they seem unable to update their software to accommodate to this modern warfare. Eventually we reached all the way to our goal of the second crossing. With this, all of Texas could easily be cleaned up and we could turn to the Mexican lands of Santa Anna, simply crossing the Rio Grande River. As the majority of their army had been destroyed in Texas, we rapidly captured their capital. Unfortunately, Santa Anna's AI has some memory and storage space all the way south as well, so we had to make the long march to the refinery, dealing with any strangling robots on the way. After finally unplugging Santa Anna, we now span from the Pacific to the Gulf, and with an army of 25,000, by far the strongest Mexican nation. With no apparent movement in the NCR Legion War, we continued to put our focus on the robots, with the ultimate goal to gain the last key to Armageddon Station. Starting off against Maximilian, we crossed the border in the north, reusing our strategies against Santa Anna and encircled several of his robotic units. After ensuring the AI wasn't more advanced than Santa Anna by succeeding with encirclement, we attacked his capital, capturing it and gaining a breakthrough which allowed us to divide his realm and reach the Great Silo without a battle. After one final fight for Linares, the second AI has been defeated. Next up stands Zapata, who as we started attacking his robots seemed to have updated them, because we didn't immediately get to encircle them and instead had to fight in their more undersupplied south to be able to deal Zapata enough damage that we then could execute the encirclement of his capital and defeat all the defending robots. With the hard part over, the last of his memory and storage was captured, leaving only Moctezuma left. Thanks to the strange shape of his land and having deployed more special forces, the land was quickly divided in two, with all forces in the north soon destroyed and Tlaloc's lair captured. It was here we found the last key, but first we had to destroy the strangling robots in the south, which was as easy as said. Opening up Armageddon Station, we found ourselves with hordes of pre-war technology, from advanced guns to research unknown to our scientists. Though with the sheer scale of the station, it will take time to fully explore it, and while we do, we can't remain passive on other fronts. We've received plenty of updates from the NCR Legionary War, showing that Lanius has started gaining ground. Thankfully not significant enough to force us to intervene straight away, so this allows us to continue our focus on the south, while we simultaneously continue the military build-up, now with the goal of 50,000 men. Here in the south, the only big player left is Nuevo Aztlan, which compared to us stand vulnerable, especially since all their new lands on the Yucatan Peninsula isn't cored territory, meaning we only need to capture their Pacific states. Declaring war on all the southern nations left in Mexico, we started off by defeating the Viceroyalty, together with the Aztecs. But obviously this cooperation didn't make us friends, as we only days later mounted an offensive towards the old capital of Mexico. Our special forces were able to capture the symbolic city in no time, and even gained such a huge breakthrough that they arrived to the Aztec capital with little resistance. While consolidating our lines, unfortunate news arrived from the north. The newly united provisional government of Texas declared war on Lanius, meaning his collapse is probably imminent. So we hurried up our war in the south, expanding the goal of the elite offensive to reach the Pacific. It would include several difficult battles, especially as we had to cross a river and as we started reaching further to the mountainous south. Still, the offensive was a success, and the Aztec lands have been divided in two. We will begin major offensives on both sides, but focus most of our effort on the western. Here our forces who invaded the Viceroyalty had already crossed into Aztec territory, and soon we made enough advances to encircle the second biggest Aztec city and capture it. During this, the advances on the other fronts were slow, and as Texan advances against Lanius sped up, we need to finish this war right now. So Mora took personal control of the situation, beelining our forces to any and all cities, so that the Aztecs finally had to concede and capitulate. We still have one more enemy here in the south, but they must wait, as intervening against Lanius is now our top priority. Most our forces were transferred to the north, where they united with 60 more infantry battalions and 40 robot battalions who have been created thanks to the massive numbers of captured robots. All in all, this means we stand with 250 battalions and 60,000 deployed men. This isn't our only advantage against Lanius' crumbling army. After having thoroughly explored Armageddon Station, we've not only found research allowing us to produce better guns, but also an intercontinental nuclear missile. So why not use it to also scare Texas and the NCR from ever fighting us? Declaring war on Lanius and his cronies, we crossed every river and border leading into enemy land. They stood absolutely no chance, as their armies are already spread thin across now 3 fronts. Our special forces rapidly moved towards Gente City, capturing the capital of the main arms provider of Lanius. Across the other side of the front in the east, our robot army proved itself, as together with Texas it sandwiched the Legionnaires. With our scientists now ready for the nuking of Flagstaff, we launched our missile right before the eyes of the new Californian army. Fully destroying the capital, there wasn't anything Lanius could do now to save his empire. In the matter of a few weeks, what had took years to build up was destroyed by the combined efforts of us, the NCR and the Texan Republic. Dividing up the lands of the Legion, we unfortunately stand without some of our Mexican lands, as the Californian army seized it before us and won't give it back without a fight. So we sent some of our forces back south, where we defeated our last enemy, the Coffee Coast. We thus stand with almost all of Mexico united. Of course, some lands remain under California, but our Texan lands should compensate for that, and it's not like we are capable of defeating the NCR right now either way. Despite having high compliance and shrinking resistance across our liberated lands, it remains a big problem, and it could take years until all of Mexico is properly integrated. Only then would further expansion be possible. Still, Mora has succeeded with his goal. Mexico has been reunited, and the Senate has even started the real implementation of the Mexican Constitution, moving back our capital to Mexico City. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I'll see you in the next one.